Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to another episode of the Adapt Performance Podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Mitch Raynsford. Okay, so if you don't know Mitch, he's going to give you a little bit of an introduction to who he is, what he does, and where he's currently at. Okay, some of the things we cover in today's episode is really cool. I'm going to call this podcast Coffee Chats with Mitch, okay, because that is the type of vibe that you get from it. It's really easy going, just two people involved in, the performance industry, just having a back and forth on some of the things that they think and some of the things that we actually do speak about when the cameras aren't on, okay? So we cover a little bit on, career stuff. We talk about what he's doing at the moment, working with professional Football Association, his role at Game Changer Performance. We also get into, some of the deeper things. We're speaking about failure, learnings, how to change goal setting. We go down a little bit of a rabbit hole in a lot of different directions, okay? Really, really good chat. Really enjoyed it. And I think what I kind of left this chat with is little bit of inspiration, to be honest with you. So I got a message the other day. I put out the Q&As on Instagram, and one of the things that somebody asked me that I didn't get a chance to reply to, actually, because I'm a bad person, but they asked me around, like, why do you do what you do? And this is a big question, but one of the things that definitely kind of pushes me to keep doing what I'm doing, and one of the things that I find quite inspirational, is I have a lot of friends that are doing a lot of really good things, okay? And that's, chasing their careers, doing things that make them happy, and generally just crafting the life that they want, which sounds super deep, maybe I've had too much caffeine, but I left this chat with Mitch being like, fucking yes, Mitch, sick. I love to see people do well. And it's even nicer to see your friends doing things that they really enjoy and they're really happy and content with, and they've got that meaning. So yeah, for me, just a really nice conversation. There's definitely going to be nuggets in there for you to take away and think about when you're involved in performance and trying to break down your sport and all those types of things. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the chat. This is me and Mitch. Yes, buddy. What is going on?
How are we doing, Jordan? All good over here? How's it over there?
Beautiful, beautiful scenes, mate. Lovely Friday morning. I have had a little bit of a lay-in before this, so I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling well up for it. Got a day planned. It's going to be a beautiful day. But yeah, all good. What you got on for today, mate? What's the plan for Mitch?
To be fair, I'm the same. I had a double session yesterday, so I didn't have to train today, which is always nice. And then, a little bit of programming before this. I've got a golf lesson actually at lunchtime, so that'll be decent. A little quick one for American golf, and then programming again. It's just a full day of programming really, and then out for a meal this evening, which would be sweet.
Sick. Is so you do quite a bit of face-to-face stuff as well as online then?
Yeah, so my split at the moment is basically like 2 days of face-to-face and then the rest of it's online. So I've kind of transferred more towards that remote coaching than I had before. Whereas before it was kind of like 5 days of face-to-face and then just fitting other stuff in where I could around that. So it's quite nice working from home, which I found weird to start with.
Yeah. I can remember when in COVID, that was like the dream. So when we were both living at Auburndale, if I got like a work from home day, it's the dream. Because you got slippers, you got a dressing gown, you can have as many coffees as you want, a little lay down. It was banging, mate. I'm all for it.
I've got mine on.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the Uggs on. The comfiest Uggs in the world.
It's one of those, isn't it? We get excited when we can wear shorts to work, but now I'm sat here in trackies and in Uggs and still very happy.
Oh, mate. I was thinking about this the other day. So I train a basketball team in Sheffield, and we've got like a girls group and we've got a lads group. And the girls, mate, they are so full of personality. It cracks me up. But they all just buzz. If you tell them they can take the shoes off for the session, you've never seen anybody more happy in the world. It's like, oh, we get to train bare feet. It's like, yeah. But honestly, mate, that'll make their absolute day. Love it.
Oh, that's brilliant. To be fair, we're the same at Staffs now. So they're the 2 days I do a week is over at Staffs Uni with their scholarship guys. And I started training barefoot. They'd spot me then. I was like, oh, well, those shoes are horrible anyway. They're like marshmallows. Give it a go. And then literally people come into the gym now. They just take their shoes off. It's a bit like a dojo. They walk in, their shoes are all lined up along the side, and we just train barefoot.
Love it. Everyone's barefoot and got those Thailand pants on. Yeah, that's what I picture when you say dojo. Like the ones where Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone found themselves in Thailand. That vibe.
yeah, that's it.
Sick. Right then, mate. So, just give us a little bit of an elevator pitch, mate. A bit of an introduction to people that don't know you. Who are you? What have you done? And where you at the moment?
Yeah, sound. So I'm Mitch Raynsford. Love being outside, train as much as we can. Plant parent to, I think, 30 plus plants now, I think. So they're racking up. But then career wise, S&C coach, physical prep coach, whatever you want to call yourself. Went through that like standard process of undergrad, masters, etc., so on. Got as much experience as possible when I was studying, because it's one of those things, isn't it? You can go through, you can get a great degree, but if you can't coach, you can't coach. So I spent as much time there doing that as much as possible. Worked with like the local colleges, did some England golf work. Ended up, I think I emailed a football club I wanted to work in 13 months in a row every month until they eventually let me in for a week just so I could see what was going on. So that was all decent. Started studying S&C in my second year of uni and was like, wow, I can make a career out of just training, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And then from there, once I did my masters, applied for that role with Warwick. That's where we kind of met as well. So that two-year period over Warwick, which was brilliant. One of those voluntary internships, but you're dropped in the deep end. You go there thinking, yeah, I'm a great coach. And then you realise you know absolutely nothing. So that was a nice little learning point from there, going through that process, doing your gym instructor, PT, massage on the side, which gives you that kind of decent income alongside it, which was great as the internship had. And then stepped into that role over at Aston Villa with the women's teams. So the RTC over there, they didn't have a physical prep coach before I came along. The physio would do like fitness stuff with them. But I remember watching their first game. And did you ever watch Soccer Aid, where Boris Johnson goes in for the tackle and just kind of runs into him and doesn't stop? That was how they were tackling, because they didn't know how to. Yeah, they didn't know how to decelerate. So that was a really nice kind of learning opportunity for me. Was like, right, this is a little project I can build from the ground up. Hopefully get them moving a little bit better. And that was like a 2-3 year project through there, which was nice. And then in that second season, took on the role with the women's first team as their GPS sports scientist, working on training load, etc. so on. Same again, doing a role that hadn't had a huge amount of experience from, but learned a load, especially the lifestyle of working in elite football. After that season, managerial roles changed. I no longer had that role, went back with the RTC, and then decided to take a step away from that elite football, step into the company I'm in now. So Game Changer Performance, been there for a year and a half now, I think. Going really well. Like, started with the PFA rehab scheme. So we fix up all of those injured players that are professional, from Premiership down to the bottom of the leagues. And then they'll spend 3 weeks with us across the season, doing some educational experiences. So universities come in, understand what it's like to be at St. George's Park, go through that process of what an elite team is. And now stepping into that role of Perform, which is our online coaching app. And we do a lot more kind of gen pop and corporate than we do athletes now, which is actually really interesting. So we work with a lot of companies around that kind of that corporate wellness, so they can use their monthly wellness budget to kind of sign up with us and then go through a 6 or 12 month sort of process with us and go down that. So it's a bit different to the athlete lifestyle, but it's really nice to see someone who can now spend more time with their kids than they did before and understand that process. And then, like I said earlier, I've got 2 days a week over at Staffs Uni with their scholarship team. So gone like a bit of a 360. Started really wanting to work in elite sport, went through uni and doing PT, stepped into elite sport eventually, and then I've come straight back to kind of uni and gen pop again. So that's me.
Yeah. Mate, I think it's like a really colourful career in that sense. And I was speaking to one of the lads the other day around, and I think you'll agree with this, I might be completely wrong though, but some of the most valuable experiences I've ever had, I feel, that have made me a better coach have come from those, quote unquote, non-athletic populations. So dealing with your general pop and actually just being a personal trainer. I feel like a huge part of my skill set, the things that I feel like I do well, being able to build connection and get somebody going and explain the basics, didn't come from, my S&C background or anything like that. It came from trying to explain why we're doing what we're doing to, Margaret down the road. Like I found that such a pivotal thing, but I still think there is a little bit of almost stigma from an S&C coach standpoint and the community around personal training. We're not personal trainers. It's like, well, maybe you should be. You should probably be a lot better at what you do if you did. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I agree. Like, there's a lot of that. Like I said, when you're at uni, you're like, right, I want to be an S&C because I want to work with United week in, week out. I want to play the big dogs at the weekend. And yeah, that is amazing. It's nice to go through that experience, but you got to remember that the lifestyle around that is 7 days a week. It's quite intense, and it's an amazing experience to go through. But when you talk about that, like, I've had a client before who she lost 44 kilos. She wasn't small, let's say that, but now she's in a lifestyle where she's really enjoying it. She does yoga 3 times a week. She loves hiking and finding hills to go up. And now her life is totally different. I remember when we first started, she couldn't do like a sit to stand at Warwick. And then now she's at that place where she's doing everything and she wants to do HIIT sessions as much as possible. So going through that, there's a part of me that will take more enjoyment out of that and seeing someone's life change rather than, okay, great, I've added an extra 0.2 meters per second to my sprint time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree, mate. I think that that whole piece of trying to find meaning in what you do is really important. And I think at the moment I feel like I'm in a really good spot with the stuff that I'm doing because I have a little bit of everything. You know, I have some rehab which is meaningful in its own way. You get to give people back their life and their hobby and that type of thing. You've got your recreational athletes that, you know, really do make quite a lot of progress because of the things that you put in place for them, the structure, the coaching and all that. And then I also have a little glimpse of the pro sport thing, which is, it's nice. You know, it is nice. It is shiny. It is that thing. But I almost don't feel like I could do any one of those things 100%. I need that variety just to keep myself sane and keep me actually sharp.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Like, it's nice to have those different aspects in there, isn't it? You don't want to just be down one avenue. And like, I love working with people and developing people, whether it's at that elite level or something down below. Like we had, it was one of our skiers is over at the World Olympic Games at the moment. She just got a bronze medal, which is amazing, great to see. And then you've got that aspect of, right, can we get someone just moving 2 days a week as well? So having that aspect, like you said, of lots of different avenues is it's nice. It keeps you on your toes, doesn't it? Rather than just having one kind of viewpoint for everything the whole life.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just going back to why we do things as well. You know, I think we've all got like an idea in our mind as coaches, PTs, whatever you want to call yourself. Like I've got a few moments like of working with people where I'm like, fuck, that's going to make it into my like scrapbook at the end of my life. Things that I'll remember as like, it was just so cool. And the number one, and it's been the number one since forever anyway. I was working with a paracyclist. So she's disabled. She has kind of it's called CMT and it's like muscular sclerosis type of vibe. Okay. So almost like cerebral palsy in a sense. And we were hammering away trying to get her to be able to do a split squat and she couldn't get it. You know, it's a balance thing, it's a coordination thing and a strength thing. She just couldn't master that movement. And we worked on it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And it's always a case of, right, we're going to reset, we're going to go again. Kind of frustrating for her because she can't get her body to do what she wants to do. Little bit, you know, and being totally transparent towards the back end of it, a little bit frustrating for me in a sense because I couldn't solve this problem. I couldn't get her to do that thing that, you know, we both valued. And I can remember I left her to it. You know, I said, right, get on these split squats. I'm just going to go grab a foam roller from across the gym. Go grab it. I walk back over and I see like the most perfect set. And I'm like, right, I'm staying away from it. I'm not going to go over. I'm not going to touch it. She's doing a good thing. And it was like, that process, I got croaky. That was like, it's just in my top 5 favorite moments ever, you know, personal life, business life, because she managed to do that thing. Oh, mate, explaining it, I don't even know if it really makes sense, but for me, it was like massive. I don't know if you've got anything like that.
I think it's one of those, isn't it? As a coach, when you can see someone go through that process and go through that self-exploration and obviously unlock something that they couldn't do before, I think it's amazing. I think it's similar with like that's very different to the world of like Olympic lifting, but Olympic lifting is another one where people can be doing it for ages and like, oh, what's going on? What's this? Like, it doesn't matter. We don't have to get it done in week 1. It can be a year-long process. And I'm sure the same now. Like we're doing Olympic lifting. We might have done it for the last 5 years. And there's still days where we're like, oh, it's rubbish. And there's still things we can work on. But when you're in that process where someone does the perfect clean, because you know what it feels like when you do a perfect clean, don't you? It's just so smooth and effortless. Yeah. They stand up and they look over. It's like, that was great, wasn't it? I was like, yeah, Yeah, that's perfect. I haven't said anything. You've just gone through that yourself. So seeing their eyes kind of light up through that process is amazing of that aspect of why we do what we do, isn't it?
Mate, and Olympic weightlifting is like a perfect example of, I don't even know if there's a word to describe it. It's just fuck. That's all I've got. It's like you can do a full session, right? You can do a full session, and you can do 99% of your lifts are amazing, but you'll do one bad one, shit session. But then the next week you could do 99 shit lifts, but do one good one in like fucking hell, smash that, and it makes no sense to me. But it is such a love hate thing with it.
That's why I started playing golf. It's the exact same. You can have an awful round
Ugh.
and shoot your worst score ever, but on the 18th hole, if you put it within a foot of the pin from the tee, like, oh, I love this sport. I'm coming back again.
Yeah, mate, my golf journey. Well, since I'm gonna say I haven't played or like done anything. When did I last do it? It would have been before. It would have been December actually. So it would have been before going to South Africa. It would have been before going to home for Christmas and that type of thing. So I know when I pick it up. Not that I'm good. I'm very bad, but I'm going to be so much worse. And I need to get a lesson booked in. That's what I need to do. Actually, I need to bite the bullet and just book a thing.
Yeah, we need to get around sorted. I know Nick's got some old clubs that he's borrowed from someone in a garage somewhere, so I'm going to try and get one over in Nottingham at some point soon.
Yeah, mate. Speaking of Nick, I had a message. Well, I was getting ready for work the other day, and I never get a phone call from Nick. So like when it popped up, it was like 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh, this is bad. He
Oh
answers
no.
with his morning
Yeah.
voice, and I'm thinking, this is bad. Like I'm in trouble for something. Like my pastor's come back to get me, or something horrendous. I genuinely thought somebody had died, and this was his way of telling me. But yeah, I agree, mate. I think definitely just getting like a squad day out. Let's go play golf. Let's go have some food. If to be fair, we're probably pretty scattered out around the area, so we're probably in a good place where you can stay at mine or you can stay at yours, and we've got a bed or a floor, haven't we? So
That's it, innit?
for sure, for sure. So how are things going at Game Changer then? You're happy with how the career's kind of progressing? We spoke a while ago around the pro sport and a little bit around burnout and just not happy and that type of thing. Just feel different to you. It's kind of a step in a different direction.
I'm really happy, to be fair. Like looking back on the world of elite sport, it was an amazing experience, and like going through that process, you go away at the weekend, you go and play Man City and seeing all the players there. I mean, I think the last time I was with Villa and we played Man City, we lost 9-0, so it wasn't great. But but having those sort of weekends, week in, week out, is amazing, and having those facilities is great. But it's your life. It goes on and on and on. And I actually remember going for an interview elsewhere at a different club, and they said, right, put together what you think the schedule should be for the week. And I looked at what availability they had, and I was like, if you want me to work with your 16s and 21s, I've worked it out. It has to be a 7-day week. And they're like, yeah, well, as you know, football's 9 days a week. And I was like, no, hang on, no. If you want me to be the best, it's not a 7-day a week job. It's 5 and then a 6 or something like that. And then on the odd occasion, yeah, sound, let's do those extra ones. But if you want me to be at my best, I need certain days where I can switch off. They didn't like that at all, and I didn't hear back from them after that. I think it was a 4-stage interview. I got down to the last stage and didn't even get any feedback from them. So that world of elite sport is different. So stepping into this now, going into that kind of still being exposed to it, like our main office is over at St George's Park, like the England training ground. It's amazing. It's still exposed to all of those, but you're working 5 days a week. You get your evenings and weekends free. And this was the first time I've had my weekends free since 2013, I think it was. So the first week I was like, wow, what's going on? What do I do? Building very quickly.
PTSD.
But yeah,
I've got time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's going on? So no, it's brilliant now. It's a nice company to work for. We've got a really good team. We've got that aspect of supporting on the PFA scheme. We brought someone in for my old role for that education experience delivery. So he runs all of that. And now I've got that nice balance of, right, I can work with the university athletes who are a great squad this year as well. I think we've got 24 scholars. And then the other days I'm kind of working from home, doing some content filming like we did yesterday over at the office gym, just spending time with the people you want to spend time with, and actually having that time to switch off at the same time. So, yeah, we're in a good place now. It's exciting to see where the year goes for us now, especially with that new platform we're looking to build as well.
Yeah. No, sick. With the PFA stuff, how does that look for you guys? Is that a full-time thing, or does it almost kind of work like scholarships in a sense, like drop-in sessions? Yeah, how'd that go?
So for the PFA, like we've got 4 people that deliver on that week in, week out. So we've got an S&C coach and then 3 physio/therapists on there. So basically within the PFA, they fund any professional footballer, present or post, which is great, to come over if they need injury support, physio support, S&C support at that certain level. They can come with us 3 weeks of a year. So it might be recovering ACL, for example, might come in at 3-month stages. And then we'll see them like 3 months post, 6 months, 9 months to get the sign off. They'll come in on the Monday. We'll go through a full sort of injury assessment for them. They'll speak with the physio for half hour, see what's going on, see if there's anything that hasn't been picked up previously. And then from there, we're like, right, what sort of test do we need to do? Do we need to do a mid-thigh pull? Is it a single leg squat? Can we get them jumping, counter movement jumping? If they're okay with that, can we go down that single leg sort of aspects? Do they need an IKD to understand that kind of strength and HQ ratio between each leg, etc., so on? So it's a nice rounded kind of approach through there. We give them a feedback, right, a report, right, you're good on this, you're not so good on this. This is what you're like on visit 1. This is like you're on visit 3. Hopefully it's a lot more green than red where it was before. And then we send them away at the end of the week back to their clubs. But then on a Tuesday, it's that kind of, right, let's do an intensive sort of training day. We have that rest day or recovery day on a Wednesday, where that might be, we can do loads of upper body conditioning. We can do seated rows, we can do seated med ball slams, seated battle works, for example. Still get that metabolic conditioning in there whilst letting their legs recover. Jump in the hydro, and then Thursday's the same, just extended if we're able to extend it a little bit further. And then they go back away again. So it's a nice little process for those footballers to come into, and it gives them something. Also, that aspect of being in a different environment. When an athlete's injured and they're stuck in the same physio room all day long, they're not allowed out on the pitch. Sometimes just getting somewhere new is perfect for them as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think that's an important part of it. The variety and the buzz, St George's Park, that type of vibe, that professional feel, it does just give you a little bit of a lift, and that can be the thing that kind of drags you through the rehab one day. So I think that's sick. And mate, what an environment it is as well. Like that's the maddest thing. The fact that is the base is sick.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Like the facts, I remember, like I spoke to Jake, who's our managing director. He was like, "It's amazing, but after a couple of weeks, you will just get used to it. It's like driving to your office." I was like, "To be fair, yeah, that makes sense." You drive down. There's days in the summer where the sun's shining, the pitches are just like perfectly groomed and green, and you drive in and you're like, "Yeah, this is sick. I'm not going to lie, this is a decent job." But yeah, no, it is a good place. You've got access to the gym that the England team use. Obviously, when they're in on their camps, we got to time it correctly in order for them to be in and out, etc., so on. But they're pretty like receptive of us being there. We've been there for, I think it's 5 years now. So they have their times, we have our times, and most of the time we kind of have free run of the place anyway, which is pretty good. It's getting busier now though with the amount of different age groups that are there now.
Yeah, mate, I've seen more stuff coming out on like the Instagram and social media side of things. So the education days that you guys run, give us a little bit of a run through that. What's the objective with those?
So that's kind of the main role that I took on when I started here. So I was 50% kind of education experience manager and then 50% on the PFA, doing a bit between each. The education experiences are amazing. Like they are good, especially if you're second, third year uni, but we have schools coming through to here as well. So we go down that approach of, right, how can we get a school over? When you go on like school trips, it'd be like to like the Roman baths or something like that. When it's coming this way, it's a bit more specialised. Right, well, exactly, yeah. So we're going down that route of, right, can we have like a school excursion trip, but I experience what it's like to go through these things, understand the why of what we're doing, which I think is the biggest aspect there. Like you're not just coming to experience St George's Park, you're coming to know, right, why are we doing these tests? Why do we do this speed workout on pitch? How does it relate to where you are in your sport, and how does it relate to performance sport as well? So they'll come in, normally it's a 3 hour or a 6 hour day, and we normally push down that route of, right, let's spend 2 hours on the pitch, 2 hours in the gym, grab some lunch, and then an hour in the hydro pool afterwards. So it might be that we're doing speed testing out on pitch, getting the light gates out, for example, going through a 10, 30 metre sprint, maybe a 5:05 to see what that change of direction deficit is, understand why the fast people normally are a little bit slower when that change of direction comes into play. Maybe do a little bit of a speed mechanics workshop or a turn to play workshop, because everyone's had some sort of hamstring niggle or knee niggle at some point in their life. So getting them to understand why it's good to go through that process. Heading into the gym after that, we always try to push the profiling demo because it's something different. There's not many places that have the exposure to the kit that we got at St. George's. So can we get them on the forceps that are built in, like secretly into the ground that you can't see unless you look for them? Can we get them on the Nord board and have their first experience of running through a Nordic curl, which is always amazing. I always try and get the lecturers on there as well, just to get the kids to beat them. Jump them on the wattbike and say, right, let's do a 6 second all power output. Can you get close to Chris Hoy? Like, yeah, I can do that. And then they see his outputs, they're like, yeah, that's disgusting. So that's always good. And then one thing I do like as well.
6 seconds?
So 6 seconds. So I can't remember. So we always go by relative. So obviously he's got massive old legs, isn't he? So he's going to put more out than someone that's 50 kilos. But in terms of watt per kilo, he's putting out 28. My best I've ever got is 18, and I feel like that's really good. And then I looked his up and I was like, yeah, that's disgusting. So I think it's 2,900 watts on the bike, which is a bit crazy. And then from research I've done as well, you've got, who's the other Chris? The endurance cyclist. I can't remember his name now. It slipped my mind.
Froome.
Yes, Chris Froome. So when he's doing the Tour de France, he sits on average just under 500 watts going up a mountain for an hour. So sometimes we'll say, right, jump on the bike, set it at 500 watts. How long can you last? And normally if they get past 30 seconds, they're loving life. And he's doing it for an hour up a mountain. So yeah, that's a bit mental as well. One thing that we do like is the case study, to be fair. So universities are brilliant at kind of giving everyone the theory around what you need to do, etc. So on the why, let's focus on this. And then we come in like, right, say, for example, you've got a player, a late stage ACL rehabber. They haven't done a huge amount of sprint exposure yet for some reason. Tell me what a perfect week on the PFA looks like. So we've given the education out on the pitch. We've given them the education into the profiling. We showed them that they've got the hydro they can use on a Wednesday. And then we leave them for half an hour and say, right, make a perfect week. And you've got to tell us why. And I always go, if you can't tell us why, I'm rubbing it off the whiteboard. Simple as that. So it makes them think a little bit as well. So it's nice to get that exposure and do something that they wouldn't normally do at uni. And then we can kind of, depends on the group, depends how confident they are. I like to rip them to shreds and be like, you know what, this, and this, but then also highlight the good things about it as well. And then I allow them to rip my one to shreds as well. It's like, right, this is what we did on the week. What could have been better? Because there was definitely things we could have done better on our ones as well. So that's always nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's never going to be perfect, is it? That's the thing. It's certainly totally situational, and there's so many biases and context that you're going to take into play. But I think that sounds sick, mate. I wish we had things like that when we were in school, because I never did. Like you said, our idea of school trips really was going to Henry VIII's house, and they made you sweep a chimney, and you're just spending all day in this fucking stinking frock thing that they made you wear.
Slave labour.
Yeah, it's mad. And then I think from like an actual sport or PE perspective, well, yeah, I go back to our sport lessons because we actually had them, and it was just PE. That was it. That was the only thing that you could really be in sport, and that was the only thing that ever got pushed was, if you work hard, you can, do cross country with the year sevens, and it's like, I wish there was more. I'm trying to think of the word, like aspirations almost, just more options for people. But that sounds sick. It sounds exactly what I think people need. I wish I had that from an earlier age, because I didn't really know that S&C was actually a thing, or sports science was it really a thing until I was 16, 17.
Yeah. So like, to be perfectly honest, like a lot of the schools we get are private schools, and everyone knows like the S&C space in private schools now is definitely changing. It's getting a lot better. So they come along and do that. But yeah, if we can get like your everyday state schools come along as well, then amazing. We definitely do have them, but we try and advertise to them a little bit more. But it's just the funding that comes with it, isn't it? The amount of money that schools have to spend on trips that are sport focused is less than it is on Henry VIII and matching the curriculum, isn't it? So that's why we always jump on a call beforehand, 2 weeks prior, and be like, right, what are you currently studying? What are you going to study? What do they know, and what can we provide them and challenge them on? And quite often, it sounds bad, but just by them coming in and seeing someone new, they listen more, just because it's a different voice, it's
Yeah.
outside of the school, and we can teach them the exact same thing that they've been taught in the classroom. But because they're on their feet and doing it, and there's someone new and it's at St. George's, all of a sudden it goes in a lot easier. So we're basically there by, what have you taught them? How can we teach it in a different way?
Yeah. No, that's sick, mate. That's cool. Do you think you'll be there for a long while then? Are you happy with the work-life balance and everything? Is this something you see for the next 5-10 years? Obviously, it's kind of a question, so tell me to fuck off.
To be fair, yeah. To be fair, it's going all right so far. I'm happy with what we're doing. Like the project we've got moving forward is strong as well. So that's why I've kind of transitioned away from that delivery of education experiences to more, right, I'm over at Staffs now doing those 2 days a week, which is great because every year the crop's different. We've got different athletes. You've got so many different ones through there. But then a big aspect we've got now is this Perform coaching app. And we're stepping into that corporate kind of wellness space and developing our own app as well. So come April, May, June time, we should have our own fully fledged app that we built from the ground up, which is really exciting. It's kind of just been us to be like, right, what do we want as a coach? What works? What doesn't work in other things? What can we just merge like these 4 different apps together? And then how does that look from a client UX experience? Right, how can we keep it as easy as possible? Like you say with your athletes, they're most of the time they're in a full-time job. A lot of them have kids. They're trying to get training around that, but they also play rugby at the weekend or something like that. Right? How can we take away all of that thinking process of, right, what do I need to train? When do I need to train it? Don't worry about that. We'll do that for you. Tell us what your schedule is. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. What are your goals? How can we fit that around your lifestyle, whether it's a 15-minute during lunch or whether it's an hour run on a Monday morning because you don't start till later on a Monday. So that aspect's really nice. And then stepping into that like corporate side of things, there's a lot of companies now that have that employee benefits side of things. So they might have 8 different options that they can choose for the year and be like, right, you can get this for free using your employee benefits, for example. You've got the option of health insurance, dental care, or Perform. So we can jump in there and be like, right, how can we support you over these next 12 months going through what you go through? And then we're doing a lot of this profiling around as well now around sort of, right, mindset, lifestyle, and movement. And those sort of 3 things, we give them a sort of profile to start with, right, you're good on this, not so good on this. How over the next 12 months can we make your company much better in terms of mindset? Right, let's do this, this, and this. And if it works, amazing. Hopefully we go on for another year. And it just gives us something to be like, right, how can we get that wellness improved in the corporate space, which is massive at the moment, isn't it? All that health and well-being is huge. And you've got people employed just to get the wellness of their employees better.
Yes, guys, quick break in today's podcast with Mitch. Just to remind you about the Adapt Online S&C service, okay? So we're currently full, so our books are full. The 3 spots that we had last week have now been taken, okay? But if you are interested, give us a shout. We will either put you on the waiting list so that you are first in line for when those spots become available. Occasionally, you may just jump straight in, depending on whether somebody has finished their rehab or somebody drops out and those types of things, okay? It's the nature of working with people. There is a little bit of fluctuation, okay? So if you are interested in personal and professional strength and conditioning support, where we give you everything that you need to be the best possible athlete, give us a shout, all right? So without further ado, let's get back into the episode with Mitch. Mate, absolutely. That sounds quality. I think that's super important. When you think about all the time that's going to be lost, through illnesses and absences and stuff from people that are generally just unhealthy, unwell, physically or mentally, it makes perfect sense from, a business standpoint. Because you're probably saving money when you balance the figures. But also we know the benefits of good health and movement and training, how your whole day can just be lifted through a good session. So it makes perfect sense. And that's quality. That's what I want to see from the world, mate. I buzz off, when I'm driving somewhere. If I see somebody running, I'm buzzing for them. I'm so happy. I'm like, fucking go on, lad. Like, same with biking, or you're seeing somebody just doing something really active. I love to see it because you don't see it enough in me saying that as I'm driving, as I'm being sedentary.
Yeah, that's it,
yeah,
innit?
I love it, mate.
It's true though, isn't it? Like we've been doing like webinars at the moment as well, and a webinar I did the other day was supercharged on productivity, and the amount of stats I found around sedentary lifestyles and illness in the workplace, musculoskeletal issues, etc., so on is quite scary. So if you think about it, like if you're an office-based worker, which I feel like I'm moving towards now because I'm working from home. There's some days where I just don't get my steps. I'll get 3,000 steps and it's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, bloody hell. So I've got to go for a walk. So I'm now in that population. So I'm like, right, how can we stop people getting in their car when they wake up in the morning, driving to work, sitting down for 8 hours at work, driving home and sitting in front of the TV? It's just little changes through there where we can get some different movement in, isn't there?
For sure. I read was it an article? Yeah, I think it was an article around like every hour, try and just walk for 5 minutes, and you'll probably clock up 400 to 500 steps in that 5 minutes just from steady walking. If you do that for your 8 hour work day, you know, whether it's just walking to the toilet or walking back, you've clocked up 5,000. You know, that's a good amount. That's half of your daily recommended straight away. You know, and I suppose for us being, you know, more work from home, yeah, that's pottering around the garden, that's walking up and down the stairs 5 times. It's those little things do make a big just getting the blood pumping, your energy levels are up, and staring at the same laptop or the same wall is a killer for me. Like I just shut down. I genuinely just shut down if I don't move. So you'll see me over the course of a day, if I'm not coaching, I'll do an hour in the office, then I'll take my laptop into the front room. I'll do an hour in the front room. I'll go into the back garden, sit there with a chair. And that helps me a lot, is just a change of scenery for sure.
Yeah, massively. It makes sense, doesn't it? That's why we did this whole productivity side of things, because you sat in the same place for 6 hours, you just go a bit crazy, don't you? So just moving, trying to get a little bit of conversation going and some sort of activity. I know there's a company that we've just joined hands with recently. Every Thursday they do Thursday yoga at the office. So they know they have 2 sessions, I think it's the morning and lunchtime, where you can go in, free yoga class, and it just starts the day off right, doesn't it? Like I could quite happily have someone come in and do a yoga session with me every morning in there. So you probably could on YouTube, but you don't, do you? Because you've got to do it yourself. But if the class is there, you're going to go and join it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the really good things about Warwick, you know, when they had that employee scheme. I forgot what it was called, but they had like a yoga for athletes. And didn't you do squash lessons as well or something? Like there's a few different ones.
Yeah, I did that and I ended up joining the squash league in the end. I thought I was quite good. I joined Division 5 and got absolutely destroyed. But but yeah, it was a nice way to kind of go through those like 3 processes.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it you, Joe, and Nath, I think. Did you all join the squash?
Yeah. I think we all joined it. I don't know. Kai tried as well, and he disappeared pretty quick. I don't think he played a match, but I think we all joined. I stuck at it because I quite enjoyed it. My old man is like disgustingly good, so I think he said a few years ago, "It's like you're not going to beat me at squash till the age of 55." When I was playing, I was like, "Well, that's it. I've got to beat him now. I'll stop playing, so I'm not gonna." So we're going down a race for golf to single figure handicaps instead. So, but yeah, no, it's a decent sport, isn't it? The only reason I'm not playing it now is I've moved house and I've found a squash club, and they said, yeah, we don't play squash here anymore. We changed it into table tennis tables. I was like, so why are you still called a squash team? Yeah. But that is good, isn't it? When you get that, I think I did Did you do yoga or something as well? Did you with yours?
I did yoga for athletes, so that was a 10-week course, which was really good, and it was bang in the middle of like one of my long days where I do like a 7 a.m. start, and then I finished after Wasps netball at 9:30 or something. So it was a long old 14-hour day, and it was plonked bang in the middle, which was perfect. But some days it'd be a super relaxed yoga session, and it really was nap time, and that was, that's not good when you're doing like the corpse pose. It was. I'd definitely go to sleep. The second one I did was mindfulness. So there's a mindfulness course. Yes. So it's cultivating awareness. And that was a game changer, an all-out game changer. That was sick. I really enjoyed that.
It's amazing how that sort of stuff helps, isn't it? Like I'm with Vitality now, and the amount of stuff that they give you as options. Like my Headspace app has never been used more than it is now, just because I went through, I think it was December, I tried to do 21 days in a row of meditating. I think I got to 17, but I felt so much better in life when you have that sort of mindset aspect in you. And I've realised that. And for the last, what day are we on now? 20, so I haven't meditated in over 30 days. But when I was doing it, I felt amazing. So I definitely need to bring it back into my life, and having that as companies do now is much better.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something I've put more worth in, the past few years for sure, is that meditation side. That's something I'm really regular. Well, I say really regular. I'm consistent with it. I try and do it 3 times a week, and I'm pretty on that. But I did a little bit of goal setting at the beginning of the year. I know everyone kind of goes through this reflection period, and I think it's a really powerful thing. And I'm going to butcher it. I haven't got it written down, but is think about something that you want to achieve in 2023 from a personal life perspective. So you're thinking relationships, seeing the kids, or the friends and parents and those types of things. So what was it? It was personal. There was physiological. So what do you want to achieve health wise? What are some training goals that you really want to kind of unpick? Psychological. Okay, so went down that route of like, okay, what do you want to work on mindset wise? What are some of the things that you do consistently that you want to change? And it was, I think the thing that I picked was this, that was a mindfulness thing. It was making sure that I get that because of the ability to, I guess, ground yourself was kind of the word I'd say. So that's one of the things I've put as like a big cornerstone thing. One of the 4 things I need to work on this year. And then there was a business one as well, which I thought was pretty interesting to kind of dig into. Is that something you do a lot of? Because I see yourself as somebody that's quite reflective. Do you set like big kind of overarching goals in that sense, or not really?
It wasn't so much psychological and stuff this year. It's a lot more movement because I realised I didn't do any cardio in 2022. So that was a big one for me is right, let's get some conditioning in my life. But like at the moment, it's more rather than myself, because I feel like I'm in a good place myself at the moment, but it's making sure that I'm providing that for the people I work with as well. Like as coaches, we always go down that route of, right, can we get them stronger? Can we get them moving more? But having that area around, like I'm tempted to go down that route of the mentorship with TAS, because TAS always do that thing, don't they? But they have that mentorship program now as well. And that's one thing I want to bring in more with the guys I work with, whether that's remote based online and doing that lifestyle side of things, or doing it in person with the 2 days I'm over at staff. So we're not just in the gym. We're like, right, we're in the gym, but we're talking about, right, what's next in life? Where can we go through? How's uni going? Is there areas we're struggling on? Is there anything we can provide you with to make sure you're getting that? So I think a big thing for me is providing that more to other people this year and making sure they're self-aware, they're reflective, right? How are they acting on the court? And we've got a good relationship with the psychologist over there now, which is always nice. So he's coming over. We've got a testing day over at St. George's Park on Tuesday coming. So all of the scholars come over there 3 times a year. This is going to be the second one in the start of the second term. And he's coming along not to provide a workshop, which he normally does, but just to spend the day with the athletes, pulling them out one by one, just for a 15-minute chat, a catch-up. Right, what's 2023 look like for you? How can we help? Is there anything that we want to do on a one-to-one basis? Or is there something we can bleed into what you do with Mitch in the gym, who sees you twice a week, to then, right, develop that in a long-term process? So rather than myself this year, it's probably trying to develop the athletes and the individuals you're working with.
I think that's powerful, mate. I think that system or that process that you've got going on right there, that triaging process, I think that'll work super well, and I guess that's the MDT side of things, isn't it? You're just trying to get all people involved in that because you're all going to see it from a slightly different lens as well. Yeah, I think that's sick. I think that there and then, like being around people that have a different skill set to you, like the psychologist and that type of thing, that's so powerful. I think that's something I genuinely miss at the moment is, because I'm not around you or Joe or Nick or Tash or anything like that. I don't see people on a day-to-day basis super consistently. I'm more athlete facing all the time. And that's something that I feel like, that's been brought to my attention now. That's something that I need to attack and go after. I need to find myself, I probably need to seek those opportunities because they're not on my doorstep now, actually. Yeah,
it's harder, isn't it, when you're by yourself?
It's happening.
I'll pick you up on it in 3 months' time, see if it's still there. But it's true, though, isn't it? When you go by yourself, you can easily go down, right, I'm a one-man team, let's try and figure it out. But there's no point trying to figure out those psychological processes if we're not trained in psychology. Like, it's the same with coaching. Someone asks me a question around coaching and I don't know the answer. I'm going to say, I don't know the answer, but I'll try and find out for you. And like over at Stas, for example, we've got the physio department who are really good, are happy with what they're doing. They're seeing, like, for example, downhill mountain biking, we've got one of our guys who basically lives in the physio room because he'll push himself, fall off of the bike, and then have to get rehabbed again. So he's basically got a room in there that's his. But by catching up with him every 2 weeks, because I don't see him day to day, but we'll have a wash-up meeting programmed bi-weekly just to understand, right, who have you seen the last 2 weeks? What have they been saying to you? What have they been saying to me, and are they different? Like, that's one big thing that we took from Warwick. Like, because I was lucky, I worked in the physio department at Warwick as well as the S&C, so I could be there a lot. But making sure that athletes love playing people off against each other, don't they? Just to make sure that they can get the best output. So by squashing that straight away and being like, right, actually, they've said this to me, they've said this to me, make sure we're both on the same page, and happy days. So yeah, having that aspect there. But when you're by yourself, it's a lot harder. You've got to actively try and do it and seek out those opportunities, don't you?
For sure. I think, yeah, that's it. It's happening, mate. I'm writing it down. It's in capital letters. You're checking in with me in 3 months. And if I haven't done something that's getting me closer to that, where I'm around different people, then you need to slap me. That is happening. Okay.
I'll put it in my calendar for April 20th.
There it is. No, that's sick. Yeah. What in terms of your scholars then, who you working with at the moment? You just mentioned mountain biking, which is cool. Something I really like. I really enjoy the sport. What other athletes are you working with?
So a lot of them are single sports, to be fair, and because they're scholars, you don't have the whole team in. And I quite like that one-to-one approach. So there's some sessions where we'll have 4 people in, but I cap it at 4. I'm not allowed, or I don't let them come in any bigger than 4 because I don't feel like they get the look that they need because they're so individualised. Some of them, they're 1-by-1. So what have we got? We've got downhill mountain biking, taekwondo, netball, rugby, football, basketball, endurance cycling. What else is there? There's a few others, but yeah, it's quite a big array, which is nice. And then swimming as well. So yeah, there's a big kind of difference. And some of them, when I rocked up, and volleyball, I hadn't worked with before. So you got to sit down and do that classic needs analysis. Where they're going to break, where they're going to be the strongest, what are the obvious kind of issues around the sport, and where they need to thrive from. And then trying to catch up with coaches is not always the easiest, especially in uni sport. They'll be there at certain times when I'm not there. Like I said, I'm only there 2 days a week, and then other days I'm out doing other stuff. So trying to jump on with coaches and understand, right, where are their issues, where are their good points, where are their super strengths, and go on from there. But yeah, it's nice. I think we've got 12 different sports, which is interesting. And then obviously the guys at the Olympic Games at the moment, not the Olympic Games, the University World Games, is speed skating and downhill freestyle skiing. So I don't work hugely with them because they're normally based over in Austria and the Netherlands, but it's always nice to see them succeed, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think I love the university experience for me. I think just thinking about the pure coaching side, I love what it gives you. I love the variety as us as coaches and practitioners being able to look at things. And, I know you could definitely look at social media and research and all those things and be tempted towards, I guess, the pull that you need to be a specialist, or you need to have like a niche and you need to be the volleyball guy, and you need to hone in. And I think I'm always back and forth with that, mate. Like, I love the fact that I work in a variety of sports. And I think being totally reflective, like, could I do a better job if I was the basketball guy? Would I have a greater awareness of their cultural demands, their psychology, what they actually do in training? Probably, yeah. Like, being totally honest with it, I think that's a huge part that you end up missing if you're not a basketball or a skier or those types of things. But I think for me, the variety that I get is it allows me to be on top of my game, actually, because I think I don't overlook things, or potentially I do. Maybe that's a huge, blind spot I've got. But I feel like because it's all a little bit newer to me and you have to actually think about things, it seems to me like it's more efficient. I don't know if you disagree with that. If you do say, because that's something that I go back and forth on all the time. I would say I'm a generalist rather than a specialist.
No, I'd probably say I'm the same. Like, there was a part of me where I was like, you know what, football's going to be my career. Absolutely love this. It's an amazing experience, and you can nail down that tactical periodization. You can know that you want to peak for certain days. You want to get the sprints in on other days. You know we need to get certain sort of movements in the gym. But being challenged every single session to work with a different sport, I really like. Like when you said let's come on the podcast, I was like, I ain't got any niche. I don't really know like a huge amount of depth around one area. I just love working with people and loads of different people and seeing them succeed. So I like the challenge of lots of different sports, and finding a new sport that you haven't worked with before, I find amazing. Like I remember last year I started working with a rifle shooter. So I was like, how the hell am I going to do S&C for this? So I spent ages looking into clay pigeon shooting, doing a whole needs analysis around them. Rocked up from that first day, it's like, oh no, I'm long barrel, I lie down on the floor. So I was like, I did all this research for absolutely nothing. And then I had to start all over again for the same sport, but not the same sport, if that makes sense. So yeah, I like that aspect of not being a specialist and being that kind of generalist, specialist, whatever you want to call it. So you know enough about each sport, and I think the carryover from some sports to others, quite often you can end up in that kind of narrow mindset, can't you? Right, we need to work on this and this, but why can't you take the shoulder stability working in swimming and bring it over to netball and rugby, for example, because they still need it. If you're going to do a handoff, your hand's going to be in that position over there, isn't it? So whatever you're doing with swimming, especially if they're like a flyer, then there's going to be a huge amount you can carry over into your netball and your rugby from there as well. So I like the aspect you can take things from other ones.
For sure. And I do genuinely believe that there's probably more similarities than differences in athletes and the positions that we're in and all those things. It doesn't always look as sport specific, but we've got a human body. We might apply it slightly differently, and the technical and tactical demands are obviously going to be different. But yeah, I always go back and forth with it, mate, and there's certain things that I can see myself being pulled towards, and it's probably more of a FOMO thing, the fear of, oh, fuck, they're going to be super smart at being the rugby guy, or, because they've done, I've never done downhill mountain biking, and that was me going into that. I'm like, shit, I'm going to be working with some of the best guys in the world. I don't know what it's like to throw myself down a mountain at 50 miles an hour. I still need stabilizers on the fucking path. Like,
have they got you on a bike?
So so I've been on a bike. So that was one of the things that the coach said straight away. He was like, we'll spend a good few hours. I'm going to talk you through, downhill mountain biking, cross country, and enduro, because we work across the different disciplines. It's like, I'm going to talk to you about them. I want you to ask me questions if anything doesn't necessarily line up with what you believe about these sports, and let's try and hash that out, because he's sick. The guy we work with, he's the performance manager for Cannondale. That's his main job. But then he has his own coaching business as well. But the way we kind of sat down and went through that, I really liked, because those are some of the questions I ask athletes all the time, particularly if I don't know. I'm like, talk to me around, what do you feel S&C can give you? Okay, what are some of the things physically, that you think you need to be developed, and how does that carry over into your sport? And just try and dig it out, because you never know some of the, this is one of the things as well. I've had a few people in the past say to me, somebody's told me that I'm not fast enough. Okay. And then you're like, okay, so what makes you think that you're not fast enough? Okay. I'm always late to the ball. Okay. But are you fast? Does your 10 meter tell you you're fast? Yeah. Okay. So what's the problem then? Why are you not getting to the ball? Well, I'm probably a little bit slower to react. Okay. So now we've picked something up there. It's not necessarily that you're slower, but potentially not reading the game well. So I love that questioning process. And I guess ultimately that comes down to being comfortable in the environment to ask those questions. I'm going off on one here, mate. I'm just rolling from one point to the next. But going back to that first point with Phil, me being able to sit down there and say, okay, well, that's actually different from how we would train it in different sports. This is what we would do there. Does that resonate well with you? Or have you tried this way and you think it's not as good? Just thinking about how the upper body connects to the lower body. And, you have certain traditions in sports, don't you, that kind of carry over. I can't remember what the first question was there, mate. Where did we start?
I don't know, but I think you're right around being on the bike, and I think that aspect, like you said about having that question, Like when we start out as coaches, we want to go in and be like, right, I know everything. We're going to do this, this, and this. But having that open conversation, which is like now, that's what I do. Like when I meet someone, I'm like, right, I don't know all the answers. I want to work with you to get you better into that position we want to be in. So let me know what you enjoy. Let me know what you don't enjoy. What are you missing from your sport at the moment, or what's your super strength? And from there, they're like, okay, yeah, this, and this. And quite often there'll be someone there like, you know what, I haven't thought about that. Amazing. Let's bring it into your training. I haven't worked with it before, so I'm going to research it for you. And having that every single time you work with a new athlete, even if it's like, I've worked with loads of footballers, but there's going to be that footballer that comes along and has gone, well, actually, there's this. Like, okay, cool. So that's going to be different from what we've done before. Let's bring that in and make sure you're happy with it. So I like that aspect of being like I suppose you say a vulnerable coach and being like, right, what do you want to work on? And having that two-way rapport rather than just, right, I'm the coach, we're going to do this. And I feel like they buy into you much more that way as well. And they kind of have that ownership over the training, don't they? If they come in like, right, we're doing this, but why are we doing this? Are they going to be buzzed about being there? Probably not. So, yeah, I like that aspect. And sitting down with a coach is perfect as well, especially for a sport like that. Like, none of us ever chuck ourselves down a hill. I put the brakes on when I go around the corner because I feel like I'm going to slip on my hybrid. So doing it down a rocky mountain in Wales is a totally different idea, isn't it? They're trying to get me on one. We're just trying to find a weekend where I can make it over to Wales and head down a mountain with them. But I don't think my Claude Butler will be the one I'll be using.
Yeah, maybe it might not go well. But I think it's so true, like the question thing. And I think, being vulnerable, super important. There needs to be safety from the other side. I think that's a big part of it. You know, you need to feel like you're in a situation where you can ask those questions and actually be upfront. And I've definitely been in situations where I'm like, fuck, you know, maybe this is something I should already know, and I don't want to ask that, you know. And there's an element of that going on behind the scenes sometimes. And I can definitely, one of the nicest bits of feedback I ever got from a coach was, for somebody who's tattooed and looks a little bit rough around the edges. It was a backhanded compliment. You're really good at seeming approachable and making people feel comfortable. And I could probably put that down as one of the nicest compliments I've ever heard from a coach, because to me, I think that was so important. That's something I've kind of lent on quite a bit. And I know coaches that are really prickly to be around, you know, S&C coaches, where I'm like, if you ask a question, it's going to come across like you're being a wanker there, you know, and it's ultimately just navigating that area, isn't it? Being a people person. And I think you've read I spoke about it all the time because I really like it, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? I think I've read that 4 times now. It's just one of those areas that, I think anyone, whether you're coaching, whether you're working in an office, whether you're a salesman or an estate agent, I think it's just one of those things. You can just be a better person by reading that book and understanding that, right, what you say actually resonates with other people. You can make people feel certain ways to play using certain languages and tones. So, and then that's the same with like the art of coaching, Brett Bartholomew kind of thing. There's a huge amount around there as well. And I think I remember when I was younger, I used to be that science guy. Let's coach. But as you move on, you're like, right, actually, I'd much rather understand people and enjoy the time with them than be the guy that knows everything. Hopefully I know enough anyway. But yeah, going down that aspect of understanding people and working with them, I think is the biggest part of being a coach.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the things I wish more time was spent on in universities, you know, for sure. And I think that's more something I picked up from internships and the experience and that type of thing. Being around people that will actually have these upfront conversations around, you know, being a good conversationalist and asking questions and, you know, knowing when is the right time to actually try and make a change, you know, planting that seed for in the future. You don't need to be a bull in a china shop straight away to create a change in mentality or anything like that. But I also understand, you know, from doing a bit of lecturing over the past few years, God, it's such a difficult system to be a part of because you're so restricted in the things that you have to teach from a curriculum standpoint. Like, it's so easy to have an opinion and say they should do better. Yeah, probably it should be better. It's not a they should do better. It's the whole system's just a little bit, I don't know, restrictive, I think.
That's why I get excited when I see university courses having placement years or placement modules. Like, I didn't have anything when I was studying. I didn't have any placement opportunities within the uni. It had to be done outside of it. And then I went into my master's year. I studied applied sports physiology, so science. Everything was quantitative, sorry. And then we had this one module, which was, I can't remember what it's called, but it's something about reflective practice. And I felt so bad for the lecturer there, because she rocked up. There was 20 scientists in this room being like, yeah, we're going to talk about feelings and reflections. And everyone's like, what the fuck are we doing here? And you know what? That's probably my best module I've ever studied at university, because I look back on that and they're like, right, you need to do 100 hours worth of working. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do 50 hours worth of networking and 50 hours worth of coaching. Can I do that? She's like, yeah, absolutely. And that year was probably my best year for networking. I went over to Loughborough Power Base, spent some time over at Leicester City, did some stuff with Eastbourne Hockey Club. So having that, I think, is amazing, and one of the biggest areas that needs to be pushed at university. I feel like if you're doing a course where you're working with people, you should work with people, not with just your cohort in there. Get happy doing that. And we started a placement area around over at Staffs now. So the days I'm in there, we've got 2 placement students. I'm like, right, perfect. This year I want you to fail loads. I want you to learn as much as possible. I want you to challenge me because I'm going to challenge you. And same again, if you don't have that why, you can't deliver what you're delivering. I'm going to get rid of it. So they chat themselves a little bit when they said that. I was like, but I want you to learn that way. If you don't like it, let me know and we can change it, we can adjust it. But I want to challenge you as much as possible this year, because take this time to fail, because when you're in a job, it's not as easy to fail. So I want you to do it as much now and get comfortable doing so.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the other side of it. But being okay with failing, when it feels like an absolute pressure cooker, and you're just thinking, fuck, this has got to be right. This has got to be right. Like, obviously you need to have high standards, 100%. That's not an excuse to not put in good effort. But being okay with the fact that, it's like, have you read, what's it called? Black box thinking? Is that right? Have I butchered that?
No, that's it. I remember Nathan did a book review on it in our first year or second year, I think it was. So I haven't read the book because I just read Nathan's review, but it does look good. It's one of those that I do need to read. It's on the list. It's on my downloaded Audibles. So I just need to get around to listening to it at some point. But yeah, that does sound like a good book that I need to put on my list.
But essentially, it's the process of, you're in an aeroplane and they all have a black box on them. And that black box on the aeroplane is responsible for storing all the information. So if that plane goes down, you harvest the black box and then it tells you everything you need to know about why that thing happened, why that bad thing went ahead. And then you just feed that back into the system. You educate the pilots on why it went down. You educate everybody, everybody's involved in that process. And that's one of those where, that was a big book for me as well. I think it's actually a long book as well. So it's definitely more of an audible one, I reckon.
Because I know Joe was massive around that, wasn't he? Around that kind of reflection. And he was the one kind of pushing that over at Warwick, I think. And I definitely learned that from him around, right, be okay, be happy, kind of going through that reflection process because it needs to be done. And I've got a little black book now that I put in my car. So like a black box, essentially. And I sit in there, and if I finish a day of work, when I remember, I'll open that book up, being like, right, what sort of things went through today? What was the main point we worked on? What went good? What went bad? What could be done better? And that little book helps because I look through that every now and again. I read through it and I'm like, oh, that was a horrible day. Those days where like that could have done so much better, but using that to learn from and do it better next time is the process, isn't it? So we're going to have those days where we make mistakes. Like we were filming yesterday doing content, and the amount of times we had to retake shots just because we were laughing or we had a cough or the sentence, instead of being a sentence, is just one massive word. So going back and working on those areas and redoing them next time is huge, isn't it?
Oh, man, how hard is filming and speaking? It's so difficult for people that haven't done it before. It is brutal. Like, it takes about 15 different takes just to get one good sentence out. And I think at some point, I think because this is kind of my business and this is what I do, I'm okay with the fact that it doesn't need to be perfectly polished. It's up to my standards and I'm okay with it because it's quite representative of who I am, not necessarily a brand. I'm okay with saying fuck, shit and bollocks and saying it in the wrong order. That's okay. But when there's pressure on, it's a nightmare.
I don't know what that little blinking red light has the power to do, but all of a sudden you just end up melting, don't you? You're fine, you can talk, the red light comes on, and oh my God, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. It shifts your mindset. It does. Right then, Mitch, I'm going to call that there for today, mate. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to take up too much of you today. Just want to thank you, mate. That was absolutely sick. I think this is going to be a hard one to come up with a title for, you know. I'm trying to think, right, okay, well, what's going to be the governing point here? Maybe it is just coffee chats with Mitch. Maybe that's where we go with it, because we touched on a lot of different
I was thinking
areas.
that. Yeah, no, that sound. I'm always down for coffee chat. So yeah, no, that works for me. I was trying to think of certain areas we could label it, but coffee chats are always good with me. Mine's empty now, so I need to go and refill it again, get the AeroPress going.
Mate, you're an AeroPress guy. I found mine the other day and I thought about it because I need to get some of the filters. I need to get some of those. My next thing is, so we're going through the mortgage process at the moment, me and the missus, and that's going to be my housewarming present to myself. I want a big boy. I want a proper coffee magoo. But
Get the old Sage
mate.
going. There's some nice ones out there, isn't it? I
Yeah,
go to John Lewis. John Lewis has its own little coffee section. I go in there quite a lot just to get the free coffee. There'll be a different machine that's pouring the coffee every week. And I'll go in and be like, yeah, I'm really interested in this coffee machine. They're like, oh, do you want to try one? I'll go in there, get a free coffee and walk back out. But I know loads about coffee machines now, not because I'm going to buy one, just because I have to pretend I know about them. So the Sage, go for the Sage. You can't go wrong. Sick. But yeah, they're a bit of an investment, aren't they?
That's definitely, that's the tip of the day, I feel like. Go to John Lewis and absolutely just take your anxiety levels to the next level just by sitting there for 5 hours. Good shout.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, mate, thank you very much for this. I'm going to put all your information in the show notes below. If people want to go and follow you, I would definitely recommend it.
Sound. Nice one. Cheers, Jordan. Have a good day. I'll catch you later, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.